I've long been a video gamer, and a lot of that time a PC gamer, but I've rarely, if ever, played in my office at my desk with a mouse and keyboard. I'm a living room PC gamer, and I like my controllers. What I've essentially tried to work towards is a consolization of my gaming PC. Now there's a bunch of videos about that concept here on the channel, but they're a little piecemeal, and particularly over the last several months, I've taken specific steps to try to optimize the living room consolized PC gaming setup as much as possible. And the predominant comment in a lot of those videos is, can you make a comprehensive single video, basically a guide to how to, with all of the details, all of the specifics about the setup. And so here you go. That is this video right here. I'm going to walk through my setup. We're going to talk about build and placement, logistics of the PC. We're going to talk about audio video connections. We're going to talk about power management. We're going to talk about managing Windows and the interfaces that I use on the PC day to day. And we're going to talk about a special focus on command and control, interfacing using controllers, and backups and alternatives to that as well. For a comprehensive guide about the environment that I'm playing in here, there are home theater tour videos of my setups on the channel. Check out the latest living room home theater tour. But for a short overview here, my setup is comprised of the 83-inch LG G2 OLED behind me. The white boxes essentially in the wall there are in-wall Focal IW LCR6 speakers. The black below them are two Triad bronze in-wall subwoofers. Everything runs down to my rack where the Anthem STR that commands and controls the audio for this room is located. These Focals are driven on an NAD M23 amplifier, and the Triad subs are driven on Triad Rack App 350s. Everything is managed with Control 4. That's going to be an important element of what I'll be talking about here in the video. And again, in here we are using the gaming PC, but you can't see it. It's not here. Talk about that in a second. I do also have a Nintendo Switch installed on wall behind the television, and predominantly we use an Apple TV, and I do have also access to my Kaleidoscope. As said, this room is controlled by Control 4, driven predominantly with this Halo Touch remote and some buttons on the wall. So it's a pretty premium setup and gives just a totally awesome gaming experience, both from a video and an audio perspective. Yeah, it's 2.2, there's no surround sound, but this system really kicks in the fidelity, the clarity, the detail, and all of that. I'll put it up there against anything. I'll take this and the integration and the cleanliness in the living room over surround sound audio any day. I have the dedicated home theater for that. All right, we're gonna go hand cam here for a variety of the pieces of this video, and I kind of lied. I will give a little bit of a living room overview here. So just for reference there, that TV, everything's nicely installed on that front wall. We're usually gaming from the couch, either myself and my son, or the whole family of four. And I want to point out specifically relative to the couch where the PC is, and then we'll go down right after that. So down a floor, down a level of my house, and below us, essentially right here, is where the PC is. That's my storage room. Actually, maybe a little bit more over this way, a little further to the right. But you can see we've got some pretty decent distance there over and down through walls, through the floor, to get to where that PC is actually located. And making the controllers work in this way has definitely been a challenge, but I've got it working really solid right now. Excuse any mess that you see. My son's in the middle of some Lego stop motion, and we've got an epic game of Marvel Champions going here at the moment. So let's head down. Actually, I'm just gonna handy cam this whole thing. We'll walk through the house here, because we'll be coming back to this closet on the left, up through the front, and down the stairs to where the PC resides. Now, my PC is only a gaming PC. I'll talk a little bit more about that later too. It is not my office computer. It is a dedicated gaming PC in this room right here where all of our stuff is stored. So as we enter in here, you can see the AV racks on the right. And there it is. There she is, the gaming PC. Now I keep it on the rack, on top of the rack specifically, because I want, well, it's hot, one, and I don't want it pumping out a bunch of hot air into my rack. But two, I feel it does make the wireless connectivity work quite a bit better. Having it down inside the rack is a compromise to that wireless controller connectivity, reliability, and all of that. So keeping it up on top is the way to go, in my opinion here. Now that PC is custom built, hand built. I build all my computers. I've been doing that for quite a while now. Specs include a fractal case. That's a Meshify, if I recall correctly. Regular ATX motherboard, an Asus model. There's an 11900K, water cooled with a all-in-one NZXT 100 or 360 millimeter cooler, 32 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, PCI Gen 4, and the darling of the system, an MSI RTX NVIDIA 4090 GPU in there. Now, another side effect of having the PC down here, and particularly with, again, having it on top of the rack, is I don't care how loud it is, and I don't necessarily care how hot it gets, because that heat isn't affecting anything else. All of that hot air can exhaust into a pretty sizable storage room. So there's plenty of airspace to dissipate in here. This room is HVAC cooled, heated and cooled, so there's fresh air coming in, there's air going out. And even if I crank this thing to 100% fans, up in the living room, up in the floor above, never going to hear it. So you can run maximum performance, you can run maximum cooling, and this room will never heat up more than a few degrees. Now, in the long run, I would still like to build this into a nicer kind of looking build. I've looked at a couple of like the fishbowl style cases, and maybe I'll do that in the next build out, perhaps when the 5090 cards come, update to a current generation CPU, get the 5090, do a nicer build so the wires and cables and stuff can be coming out the back instead of the side. Do one of those like sideways motherboard build style cases. It'll look just a little bit nicer sitting on top of the rack. But aesthetics beyond a basic level are not really that pertinent here. As you can see, there's really not a whole lot plugged into that computer. The green cable on top is wired Ethernet. I have gigabit Ethernet going through the house, soon to be updated, hopefully, to 2.5G. Below that is a couple of black cables. That goes to what you see the antennas sticking out. More on that when we get to the controller section. Underneath that is HDMI. I do use long fiber HDMI. We'll break all of that down in a moment. And then just the power cable plugging into the rack. You can actually kind of see just above the STR there, there's that white box. I'll show it in more detail later on, and we'll talk in complete detail about power management. But let's break down this HDMI connection. So that one HDMI cable that we looked at transports all of the audio and video from the PC to the system here. That cable is routed from the computer through the walls and everything behind the bump out here directly into the television. And I do very much like running my living room sources and the PC in particular direct into the display. We're running 4K resolution, native. We're running 120 hertz capable setup here. It is all HDMI 2.1, 48 gigabit per second capable. Running in RGB mode because that's what PC's output and this TV can take it, running RGB full. Running with HDR as well. I'll go over the settings for this, and I actually did a recent video specifically talking about RTX HDR, but I use HDR all the time. So we're taking advantage of the maximum bandwidth of that cable. The long fiber optic HDMI cable, to me, has always worked very well and completely reliable. I use just RUI Pro cables that I purchased off of Amazon. And for me, they've been generally rock solid in terms of their connection stability. For doing the gaming, particularly with a PC, I wouldn't trust any kind of Balun kit, any type of HDMI extender, because we're literally taking advantage here of all of the latest possibilities, features, and capabilities of the HDMI standard. Again, HDMI 2.1, 4K, HDR, VRR, and all of that. Because I have an LG television and I have an NVIDIA-based GPU, I am using G-Sync as well. And that's a lot to manage, a lot of video connectivity to manage, that I think overall you're going to get the best reliability going direct into your display. Now from an audio perspective, this room is only 2.2 as mentioned. It's not a surround sound setup. So all of my sources in this room actually just go directly into the television. There's four sources that I use in here. There's 4 HDMI inputs, the Apple TV Kaleidoscape switch and the PC. And then I go out from this television with an optical cable back down to the rack where that Anthem STR is located, and the television sends the audio back to the audio system. The STR decodes everything, pushes audio signals out to the amplifiers, and then those amps drive these speakers and subwoofers in here. So the PC is configured for just basically 2-channel full range audio output. No Atmos, no surround. I would still be able to manage this setup for Atmos and surround sound if I really needed to, and if my system were in complete support of eARC specifically is what I would need to do there, what you may be doing as well. The PC could still plug into the television could go out via HDMI eARC back down to an audio processor receiver, whatever it may be. That would allow the PC to output Atmos or surround sound signal. The TV could pass it through back to the audio system, and you would be able to maintain that multi-channel setup. Again, for me it doesn't matter, so optical providing full bandwidth lossless 2-channel is all that I need in my configuration. Alright, so let's talk about power management, because this is something that's taken me a while to get the idea of a console PC in the living room setup working exactly the way I want it, and particularly making command and control simple. The last thing that I'm going to be doing, and the thing that I definitely would be not doing in this PC setup, is walking downstairs to push the power button on the gaming computer every time that we wanted to play it. I want to be able to very easily, and within my existing control setup, be able to have the PC turn on, have the PC turn off, and not have to mess around with a bunch of extra steps moving between rooms or pulling out mouses and keyboards and other things to be able to do that. And so I've accomplished this by virtue of my Control 4 setup. That power plug, essentially that smart outlet, the Control 4 smart outlet that the computer is plugged into first, and then that's plugged into the power delivery on the rack, gives me the command and control to be able to do this. Within my Control 4 system, and using my Halo remote here or other programming, specifically a button that we keep on a multi-keypad over here on the wall in the room itself, I can turn the PC on. So what happens here, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'll go ahead and start the PC. You can see the TV just flipped behind me there, changed to the PC input. There's nothing there yet, but that's because what happened is by virtue of pushing this button, that outlet was commanded to power on. When the outlet powers on, electrical power is restored to the computer, and pretty much all of our computers nowadays have a BIOS setting that lets us define what happens when power is removed from the computer, and then what happens essentially after power is restored. Well, what happens when power is restored per the BIOS setting is the PC boots up. So we can basically command and control the computer by virtue of command and controlling whether power is being delivered to the power supply in the motherboard at all or not. And this works perfectly fantastic. You can see steam starting up behind me there. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. So you can accomplish this a number of different ways, even if you don't have a very involved Control 4 system like this. Very easily on Amazon you can find powered outlets that can be command and controlled via like an RF button. That I've used that in the past for a short period of time. And you can also even get smart switches, not linked to Control 4, but linked to things like Amazon's A-Lady and stuff. So you can do stuff like say, hey A-Lady, boot up the PC, boom, now power goes through the power of the internet and the cloud. That switch would come on, power would be restored to your computer, and the thing will boot up in its entirety. There's a couple reasons that I like doing it this way. Generally speaking, the PC is more failure prone than using a specific gaming system, a specific gaming console. So it's always better, in my opinion, to have a fresh boot every time that I want to use the computer. And as you can see, that didn't really take that long, so waiting for the computer to start up, waiting for Steam Big Picture to launch and all that isn't really much of a waiting game. I can, generally speaking, hit the button on the wall in the room here to want to command and control the computer on and get ready to play something. Walk back to where I keep the controllers stored on their chargers. We'll talk about the controllers again coming up here in a little bit. Grab my controller. By the time I'm sitting down on the couch and ready to play, this is probably already fully booted up and ready to go. So the next question you may be asking is, well, how do you turn the thing off? How do you power manage it back to the off state? Well, what I don't do is just command the Control 4 system to turn the room off, pull power away from that switch, and just basically do a hard unplug of the wall from the PC. We want to go through a shutdown sequence first. That's very easy to accomplish. Generally speaking, I'm using Steam, I'm using big picture mode here. We are using the controllers to do pretty much everything. And Steam allows me to power manage the computer. I can go to power and I can turn this system off. Confirm that. The PC will turn off behind me. And I will make sure, I will pay attention to this. I will make sure that everything goes dark, everything goes black, and the PC has been completely turned off before I actually use the Control 4 remote or I use the button on the wall to turn the room off. The reason for that is there may be updates being applied. Windows will often apply updates while the system is shutting down, and I don't want to pull power in the middle of an OS or some other type of software update. Usually once we're back to this is the LG screensaver. I know definitively now that the computer is turned off, it's not providing any HDMI signal, and I'm obviously not seeing anything on the screen indicating to me that an update is in progress. So from here I could go back to watching television if I want to watch my Apple TV or whatever it may be, and I can go ahead and just turn the entire system off. With that, power had been removed from the plug downstairs, and that computer is now completely removed from power and in a completely off state. This aspect of the living room Consolized PC is just a fantastic element to making the whole thing work and the whole thing come together. I'm pushing one button and I'm ready to go with controller based only input. No need for mice, keyboards, or anything else like that. Alright, let's talk about controllers next actually, because again, I am a controller based PC gamer. I love playing with controllers. I am not a mouse and keyboard user by any means. I've never been really great of a gamer with a mouse and keyboard in my hand. I prefer controllers. And the types of games we play as well, I'm not a super hardcore competitive gamer, so maybe that's worth saying as well. If you're looking to really play and win in a competitive online PC gaming environment, this whole thing probably actually isn't for you. I tend to play a lot of single player, story-driven stuff. We tend to play a lot of family games, talking stuff like Moving Out, Overcooked, and things like that, beat 'em ups or whatever it may be. So we're all having fun with controllers in our hands. In this regard, PC is just absolutely fantastic because it's essentially neutral territory. Multiple controllers work. You can use any controllers you want. Xbox, PlayStation, even the Switch controllers, or buy some third-party stuff if you see fit. Me, I like premium controllers. I like the good stuff, so I have my DualSense Edge. I have Xbox Elite Series 2 here, and that's our standard form of input. As mentioned, doing it this way allows us to boot right into Steam, which gives us the ability to instantly command and control from any of these controllers. And the support for PC for the Sony controllers, as Sony has migrated into releasing its games and supporting PC as a platform, is just absolutely stellar. The DualSense Edge works in its entirety, although one of the things to keep in mind is that if you're going to use a DualSense Edge, you are better off, if you don't have a PlayStation, but a friend does, take your DualSense Edge to their house, program up the specific command and controls that you want for the paddles and the different functions and modes that are recallable basically on the controller itself. Get that all set up. That's the one thing that you can't do with the Sony controllers, specifically on the PC at least yet. There is a firmware app to be able to update the firmware of the Sony controllers natively on the computer. That's really awesome. And of course for the Xbox controllers, we have the Xbox Accessories app giving you the ability to completely manage, customize, configure, update, and everything that you need to do with Microsoft controllers. Steam is absolutely fantastic with both of these as well, and to the point now where it knows what it's talking to. It knows whether it's talking to an Xbox controller or a PlayStation controller, and it will change features and presentation as such. A lot of the new games as well will change the button prompt overlays, so if you have the Xbox controller, you get A, B, X, Y. If you're using a PlayStation controller, you get the square, circle, cross, and triangle prompts. Of course, the Sony games on PC, this is why I have these. When I'm playing Sony games on PC, I'm using the Sony controller. Ideally, those games take advantage of the specific and advanced features of this. Otherwise, I'm probably defaulting to the Xbox controller for more games than not. However, I do have to say, this isn't really like a comparison video here, but the DualSense Edge has quickly become more of my favorite controller than the Xbox series, even the Elites that I have here right now. Now, I do not use these controllers in any type of a wired fashion. It is all wireless, and you might be asking, how in the heck do these controllers sitting on this couch facing this direction have a signal that gets to that computer down on an angle through the couch, through the floor, through the wall, with all those wires sitting on top of that metal rack? How does that possibly work reliably? And my answer to that is I use Bluetooth. Now, for a long time, I was exclusively using Microsoft controllers, Xbox controllers on the PC, and I was using the Xbox wireless controller adapter for Windows. And I will say that there are virtues to using the Xbox wireless controller adapter if you can. However, what I have found is that that thing does not have very good range at all. And that was notoriously unreliable for me as a solution for wireless connectivity. We would be sitting here, controllers would drop out, and particularly it may be a little more stable if it was only me gaming, maybe a little less stable if it was me and my son, but with all four of us, we'd be in the middle of the game, controller would drop out, blinking light, pain and hassle, have to restart things, try to get stuff resynced together. But what I discovered is that Bluetooth is far more reliable to me as a connection. Bluetooth as well enables us to use all these different controllers because the Xbox wireless protocols are only for the Xbox controllers. The Sony controllers, if you use a Switch controller, they're all going to want to be Bluetooth. And nowadays, the Xbox controllers, they don't require a Microsoft specific adapter. They can work in the Xbox protocol mode, but they also work in a Bluetooth mode as well. So Bluetooth works for everything. So Bluetooth works reliably for me by virtue of what we saw when we were down looking at the PC just a little bit ago. And I have another dedicated video specifically about this on the channel as well. And that's the antennas that were sticking out of the back of the computer. That is a high gain, long range Bluetooth antenna. With that thing down there, these signals get up here, they get to these controllers, the signals get back, and we have had a virtually flawless experience since adapting the system over, since basically installing that antenna. It absolutely trounces the Xbox wireless protocol range and stability, and it's more reliable than the antenna that was provided with the motherboard out of the box. It's a simple purchase. I think it was on the order of 20 bucks on Amazon. It's all standard connections, so it screws right into the back Bluetooth slash Wi-Fi antenna terminals on the back of the PC. Of course, I'm not using Wi-Fi. It's there just for Bluetooth. I have Wi-Fi disabled because I do run everything. I always try to run everything as much as you can with wired network connectivity instead of wireless where possible. But that thing just does the job, and it does it for every one of these controllers that we may want to use. It supports multiple controllers, supports all the features. Rumble still works. The one thing to keep in mind though, the one thing really that you can't do when you have Xbox controllers running over Bluetooth is they will not connect to the Xbox Accessories app. So you can't do configuration, you can't do firmware updating when you're using it in the Bluetooth mode. But that's something that is done very, very sparingly altogether, maybe once a month, every couple months, whatever it may be. I will just go ahead and plug the controllers in with a USB cable with a wired connection. They will pop up in the Xbox Accessories app. I can check for firmware updates. I can do any management and administration and stuff that I may need to take care of there. And then, boom, unplug them. We're back to Bluetooth. We're in business. Everything's updated, and we're ready to go. The one thing I do like too is some of the customization that's available here. All of our controllers are color-coded. Mine's blue. My son is green. My wife is red. My daughter's purple. So you can do some cool stuff like that as well, and it works reliably still on the PC. Now, this is a computer. It does need administration, and there's no way that we're going to do Windows-based administration with those controllers. Now, by virtue of Windows setting for automatic updates and stuff like that, a lot of times those things will happen automatically, which is really nice. They'll happen, Windows updates will happen on shutdown. The PC does a pretty reasonable job of keeping itself up to date. However, again, it's a computer. Things are going to fail. Things may drop. Things may need to be administered, and so I do have this available to me in the room. This has been a trusty companion of my home theater, HTPC, living room computer journey for quite a while. This is a Logitech K830. I don't think they even make this specific one anymore, but there's similar models, quite a few different options as well, non-Logitech options to be able to get this. But what we're looking at, of course, is a keyboard and a trackpad. So basically mouse and keyboard all in one. It's wireless. It comes with a little dongle. I have that dongle plugged in to a USB port on top of the computer down there. It works great. Range, reliability. I can sit here on the couch. I can use the trackpad. I can type, and everything works the way it's supposed to. So when I need to do Windows updates, if I need to do them manually, Windows Store app updates, GPU driver updates, install things, manage stuff, whatever it may be, we do break this thing out. I keep it in a drawer right here in the coffee table. It's easy to grab. I love the hard power button on this, so it's not always on, just burning battery. I can use the hard power switch, leave it off. The thing lasts for a year for as much as we actually take it out and use it. Very easily, quickly rechargeable every once in a long while when it needs to be. Now, by virtue of how I game, most of the games that I tend to play, the games that we tend to play as a family, are all pretty much available on Steam. So with Steam as the main interface, as the storefront and the launcher for our game titles, I don't have to touch anything else. So occasionally, though, we will have to go to the keyboard, perhaps to get to a game that needs to be launched from another launcher. My son plays Minecraft. That's not specifically in Steam, so he will grab this in order to launch Minecraft or do some things. Now, you can add games that are outside of Steam to show up in Steam. And if you really wanted to, you could go looking for other third-party game launchers. That's always been recommended, and a lot of the comments of my videos talking about this whole setup is, hey, why don't you use Launchbox, or why don't you use this, or why don't you use that? I like things simple. And when Steam satisfies 99% of what I need right out of the box without any extra configuration or setup, that's what I'm going for, and it works very reliably to me. But do keep in mind, if you want to make things a little more involved, you want to do emulators, you want to bring a bunch of disparate launchable things together, and you want to be able to drive it with the controller, there are plenty of third-party options available outside of Steam to be able to do that. You could still command those things to launch on startup. You could still run them with a controller-based input and still be good to go. Now, a genre of games that I've always historically enjoyed, I was around in the arcades when Street Fighter II hit and spent a lot of time dropping quarters into those machines. I do like my fighters, even though nowadays I don't really play them very much. So we have a couple of fight sticks in the house here. This is one of the Mad Catz Street Fighter IV, actually, tournament editions. These are not controllers that are generally going to be run wirelessly. They have to be run wired. There's control boards and other stuff going on in here. They need wired power, not battery power. So can we play with something like this in the living room? You bet we can. And I do that by virtue of using essentially a USB to Cat5 Ethernet style cable extender adapter. So these controllers are universally USB, most usually USB-A. And on the front of my wall over here, just down to the right of this right-hand triad subwoofer, I have a patch panel or a plug outlet for 4 wired Ethernet cables. Those Ethernet lines run down to the rack, down behind the rack, and I can get to them there. I bought myself a couple of Cat5 to USB style adapters. So there's a female in the room here that plugs in. There's a male that plugs into the computer down below there. It wasn't set up when I was showing this earlier in the video, but that's my solution for that. Again, I don't really play fighters too much, but I have the ability to do it still in the room here. I can sit on the couch, I can put the fight stick on my lap, I can play some Street Fighter 6 or whatever it may be, and we can run multiple of these as well. So if we're doing some versus fighting games here in the living room, boom, I can just run 2 of these over 2 separate Cat extended lines, and it works like a champ. Never had a problem with it. I don't notice any degradation or issues with regards to latency, so it works really great, works fine for me. That would be a virtue of actually having the computer in the room, perhaps in a cabinet or somewhere, would be being able to plug these in directly without having to go through an extender or something like that. But the virtues of having the computer downstairs in another room, heat, noise, lights, all that stuff, I think really works out a lot better than trying to put the PC actually in the environment here. All right, you want a comprehensive, so you're going to comprehensive. I talked about this closet here. This is where I keep my game controllers. We designed this hall closet for storage for various things, blankets, art carts, and all that sort of stuff. But I do have a shelf here reserved. We were smart enough in the initial build, we put a plug in this closet. It goes back to a power plug extender back there. This is actually where we plug in that Control4 Halo remote to keep it charged and out of the way. But you can see all the controllers that we have are here. I can keep the fight stick there in the back. We got Nintendo Switch controllers, a couple of basic Xbox controllers. These are actually sunk to the Apple TV. We use Apple Arcade, the family does, my son in particular. Play some games on there, so we keep a couple controllers dedicated to the Apple TV. This one is actually for his robotics projects and all that, Lego robotics. And we have chargers here we have 4 Xbox Elite Series 2. Again, that's our general controller. when gaming, up to the 4 of us in the family. And then we also have the one DualSense Edge. These just pop on and pop off the chargers. They come with a little USB-C style plug-in, and we just leave them there. Basically, green means they're fully charged and ready to go. Red indicates that they're charging. These are just third-party, fairly cheap charging adapters that I picked up off of Amazon. And we can take a look at the coffee table here really quick. As I mentioned, we have a couple drawers in here. The left drawer is essentially the electronics drawer. It's where I keep the mouse and keyboard. We got the DualSense Edge pouch, the chat pad for the Xbox controllers. We keep our extra remote controls for the devices just in case we need them. And it's very easy for us if we have, we can actually just take the actual game controllers, toss them in this drawer so they're easily grabbable while we're in the room here. Generally speaking, the controller doesn't have to be charged every night, all the time. We don't game anywhere near that much, so sometimes they just get left out. Sometimes we'll put them in the drawer, and otherwise when they need it or to put them away, they go into that closet in the hallway. So let's talk about operating systems and settings on how to get your computer kind of operating in this mode. And I'm not going to go into all of the super detail. I do have individual videos, again, about all this stuff, how to easy boot your PC. I just made a recent one about using RTX HDR and setting that up. So I'm going to assume some level of proficiency about where to find some of these settings and understand some of the things that I'm talking about at a higher level, just so that this video itself isn't 2 hours long. But a couple of the elements that I do with my system and that I would recommend if you have the luxury of, again, dedicating a specific computer to be only a gaming computer and not a household computer, not a office style computer, but just gaming. So of course I'm running Windows 11. I'm running the latest version of Windows available. I am logged in with a Microsoft account, taking advantage of certain elements, OneDrive syncing and other things that provides. But I don't install anything else on this computer. It has Windows, it has OneDrive, it has Steam, it has some other game launchers, it has Minecraft, and it has drivers and applications only in support of gaming. There's no Office, there's no Outlook, there's no video production, nothing else. This computer is used for nothing else. Keep the whole thing essentially as lean as possible. The other thing that I do in order to get this boot structure, this bootable setup here, is I don't set a Windows password, I don't set a Windows passcode. And I use a Windows command called netplwiz, netplwiz, to launch a kind of hidden configuration that allows you to specifically configure your system to not require login credentials, password, passcode at startup. That means that the computer will automatically boot to the account, the Windows account that's logged in, the main account that's set on the system, but I don't have to intervene with a mouse and keyboard to type a password. Windows just shoots right through. Of course, depending on where your PC is and what levels of security and protection you may need on your computer, that may not be a viable option for you. In my household, however, inside the house for the family using the computer, there's no security concern to letting the computer boot and log me in essentially unauthenticated. And again, in the other videos that are available in the home theater gaming playlist here on the channel, I have specific videos that talk to these configurations and show them firsthand on screen. We already talked about the configuration of the video settings and stuff like that. Again, 4K 120, RGB full, turn on HDR in Windows. Do not use Windows Auto HDR for your games. Take advantage of the new NVIDIA app and use the RTX HDR. I have a whole video all about that as well. That was just published a little bit before this video. So refer back to that one for all of that. So again, running the NVIDIA app and running apps that are in support of the hardware that's on my system. Now Steam. Again, I do the majority of my gaming. The games that I buy, the games that I play are largely serviceable from Steam. I do have some other launchers on the computer, but for the games that really require them, but it's very rare that I go into those. I like to have my gaming interface and structure focused around Steam. I like the platform, and we're using Steam Big Picture mode here. The Steam Deck is the best thing that ever happened to home theater, living room, couch style controller, PC gaming, because it gave us, because it removed the old, ugly, busted looking, sad looking Big Picture mode, and it gave us the Steam Deck UI. This thing is absolutely fantastic. It navigates really well. It's fully featured, feature rich. It looks great, it works great, it looks higher resolution. I just love it. And the fact that the Steam Deck is a viable product means that Valve is going to continue investing in the UI, the features, the capabilities for that device, and they are going to trickle down to our PC gaming in the household. Now, in order to use Steam in this way, to have Steam boot with the computer and have everything work hands-free, keyboard, mouse-free, and just using the controller, there's honestly two configurations that you need to set in Steam. Go to your Steam settings, go down to Interface, and choose to start Steam when the computer starts, and choose to start Steam in big picture mode. That's it. Two toggles, they're right there, Settings, Interface, and you'll be rocking automatic boot, easy boot, big picture mode. Now, it would be pretty cool if we could skip just those brief moments where we see kind of the Windows wallpaper and the Windows UI and just bypass that directly into the Steam UI, but so be it. I think there may be some technical ways to get around that, but it involves tweaking a lot more stuff that I haven't felt inclined to bother with. Again, I like configurations that are easy, simple, that just use established features and capabilities that are available to us. I don't want to do a lot of tweaking. I don't want to do a lot of special customization. And so those couple seconds of the Windows desktop don't really faze me at all. I think it's completely fine. And that's really it from a software perspective. I do look forward to more things happening with the NVIDIA app so that we don't have to use the old NVIDIA control panel. We'd be able to get that kind of off the system. But again, I don't have hardly anything installed on this computer that isn't in direct support of hardware configuration and setup and gaming, playing games, managing games, administering games, managing my controllers for the games, and that's it. I run HDR all the time. I think it looks fantastic. I haven't had any of the troubles, cross my fingers, knock on wood, that I've seen a lot of folks claim that they have, or videos about problems and hassles with HDR performance in Windows. Maybe that's because I'm using a television as my display, and that television is really completely built for and capable of doing HDR properly. But for me, HDR has always worked. I think it looks fantastic. I don't need to do a lot of tweaking. I turn it on, I leave it on. I've got the TV all set up for it, and RTX HDR is the icing on the cake there. Working in all games and looking even better than the auto HDR that Windows was providing before. Again, there's a whole video about that available in that PC gaming playlist as well. So there you go. That's my magnum opus about using a PC, dedicated PC for gaming, controller-based in a living room environment. I hope this helps to kind of address a lot of the questions that have come through comments in, again, the disparate videos talking about this element or that element, and some of the other videos had a little bit more of like a vloggy manner as I published them over time, as I tweaked this or changed that element of the setup. But I've been using things like this for a little while now, and it's working really great. It's pretty stable, it's reliable, we're getting the best fidelity we can get for gaming visuals and gaming performance, and it's just absolutely fantastic. So sound off in the comments and let me know, how do you use your gaming PC? Do you have an office computer that you dually run or simultaneously run to a living room or a television? Are you a controller gamer? Do you have a dedicated home theater? Do you put your gaming PC in your dedicated home theater? Now, I have one of those, and I will say that there's a whole lot more that comes along with doing that in terms of using it with a projector, compromising, and things like that. So as much as the big screen is awesome, and as much as all of my surround sound, Dolby Atmos, big beefy subwoofer setup is really great for performance, audio performance in that room, we and the family still tend to focus our gaming in this room because gaming is a collaborative thing. I do it with my son actually more than I do it alone nowadays. We play some games as a family. We don't want to have to go down to the theater to do that. We want to plop down all on the couch together and just play games here. If my kids are playing games by themselves, it's better to have them do that in the living room where we can see them, watch them, see what they're playing, stuff like that. And there is just no beating flat panel performance for video gaming. Again, 4K 120, VRR, that stuff is really a necessity. And the projectors that we have available to us for our dedicated home theaters, they just don't do all that stuff the way that this panel does. The ultra low latency as well, it's just absolutely fantastic. So again, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know what your setup is. If you have questions about this, more questions about specific elements or something else that I can go into further detail, please ask as well. I'm happy to discuss. But I do recommend, after this video, if you want to see some more of the specific elements, this is meant to be a comprehensive overview, but those individual videos have the deep dives. Look on the channel, look in the home theater gaming playlist. I have all of that stuff there for you, organized and ready to watch. And you can even see a little bit through those videos of my history of feeling both happy and supportive of using a PC for gaming in this kind of environment, and sometimes not so much. Sometimes it's been a real pain, and that's what you get. We'll see what happens this fall when the PS5 Pro comes out, but that's conversation and content for another day. So if you like this video, if this helped you out, become a member for access to some pretty cool perks and the like. Leave a super thanks, leave a PayPal or a Venmo tip. Please do your shopping with my affiliates, Amazon, Target. We're talking about PC gaming here. You're probably buying some parts from Newegg. I have an affiliate link to Newegg down in the description and a whole lot more. Please use it, check it out. I really appreciate it very much. Otherwise, please do all that regular YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, share the video, let's discuss, and come on back for more home theater discussion, PC gaming home theater discussion, and fun. Thanks.